Well, good afternoon, everyone. Time check is 1400 on the 23rd, and you are here attending the GDIC webinar. Subject today is the NAVWAR Air Traffic Control Engineering, Technical, and Operational Total Systems Delivery Support RFP. A few administrative notes before we get underway. And the first one is that we are recording this webinar, and the link to the recording will be sent to each one of you within 24 hours. We're going to hold a Q&A session at the end, so you can send your questions during the webinar via the chat system to the right of your window, and we'll address them at the end. And you can also download this presentation by clicking on the link under File at the right-hand side panel of your window. GDI Consulting has been in business for 10 years, solid performance during that time with rocket growth with a 68% growth in revenue and 12% increase in IDIQ and GWAC wins and 23% increase in new clients. Overall, we've maintained an 81% win rate over the past 3 years. We take jobs only when we establish that our client has a good chance to win. Otherwise, we suggest a no-go to our client. With over 50 proposal managers and writers, we have experience that covers almost all federal agencies. Over 84% of us have more than 20 years of government proposal experience, so there aren't many things we haven't seen. We've had 210 wins in 2018 alone, prepared over 228 proposals in 2018, with the cumulative value of the successful proposal exceeding $6.2 billion. Be nice to have a percentage of that now. Anyway, GDI Consulting success. Here's a list of a few of the memorable ones. They cover the IT and engineering spectrum, management and professional services, as well as construction, environmental, and facility maintenance contracts. The outline of the webinar is here on the screen. We're going to start off with a focus, go to the highlights of the procurement, talk a little bit about the scope, the self-scoring systems that are involved, the proposal structure, minimum requirements, scoring details, and as if this can happen, what can go wrong, the win strategy, and then, as I mentioned, the Q&A. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ab Van, who's our Vice President, and he will take it from here, and I'll return with the questions. What can go wrong? The win strategy, and then, as I mentioned, the Q&A. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ab Van, who's our Vice President.
Hello, everyone. We are going to first go through this RFP's minimum requirements or main features, and then delve into some of the information about the competitors, and then go into the actual proposal and the requirements. The focus of this NAVWAR contract is essentially to provide both integrated systems, network and infrastructure, as well as engineering and management support services and equipment for the ATC, for the METOC, and Aviation Command, Control, Communication Computer, Combat System, Intelligence, Surveillance and Reconnaissance, or C5ISR, electronic systems as tasked by the NAVIC Atlantic and the NAVIC Pacific. So that's essentially what this is about. Now, I've listed some of the features or highlights of this RFP. Obviously, the name is Air Traffic Control Engineering, Technical and Operational Total System Delivery Support. It's by NAVWAR Atlantic. Some of the main dates, the original pre-solicitation, including the draft statement of work, were issued on May 15, 2019. There was an industry day held on June 4th, 2019, and the slides are available on the NAVWAR website. There were the draft section C, L, and M were issued on July 25th. There were 4 rounds of Q&As, not many questions, but anyways, 4 rounds of them, latest being October 22nd, the latest Q&A. The full RFP is expected to be released, at least from what I talked to one of the contracting officers. They told me that it's going to be first quarter of fiscal 2020. And the award date is set to be before October 1st of 2020. Now, you'll see that the previous contract took about a full year for them to award it. So they really need to move fast if they want to be able to award before October 1st, 2020. They are behind schedule. Now, the 2 types of contracts involved, it's going to be solicited under one single RFP, but it's essentially a MAC, a multiple award contract, and a SAC, a single award contract. The multiple award contract is going to be used to provide engineering support services on a non-emergent or emergency and the usual routine basis. The single award contract is for the emergency cases, as they provide a rapid response capability for emergent engineering support services like natural disasters, wars, or other critical mission support events. So they're going to award multiple awards, max, and 1 single award contract on this. But both of these will be under the same RFP and same proposal, and we'll go into that a little bit more. This is obviously a full and open. There's no set aside. Next code is 541330, engineering. Number of awards, they have not mentioned for the MAC what it's going to be. So that's something to probably wait until the full RFP drops. There are some rumors about it, but I will not go into that. The award ceiling, they've said it's going to be more than 250 million for the MAC, but less than 100 million for the SAC. Period of performance is 7 years, 5 years base, and a 2-year option. Place of performance is essentially worldwide. However, they are very specific about the fact that you need to have a local facility, 1 in Charleston, around 30 miles radius of Charleston, and 1 30 miles radius of San Diego, near to NAVWAR headquarters, either side of the continent. They have said that this could be a shared facility, but you still need it. As far as security clearance is concerned, they have been silent whether they want anything with the proposal. So far, there's no need for any security facility clearance. However, they have said that they need secret facility clearance before commencing any classified work on the TO level, task order level. Okay, let's look at the existing contract that is going on. It's a multiple award IDIQ. Currently, there are 3 awardees, Booz Allen, CCSI, and Serco. The total award ceiling for that is 199. You could think of it as $200 million for 3 awardees. And it is full and open too. It was awarded in July 2015 and is going to end by July 2020. Now, the fact that they've said that they're going to award before 1st of October 2020 means that they might extend the current contract a little bit. It was issued, the solicitation was issued on August 15, 2014. And as you can see, the award was August 1st, 2015. So it took them 1 full year. And at that time, 6 companies submitted proposals and 3 were selected. Let's look at how they have obligated the amounts. As you can see, Booz Allen has had the largest share with approximately $33 million during these 5 years. CCSI about 10 million and Serco 16 million. Now, if you look at the pie chart to the right, you can see that approximately 30% of the funds has been obligated. So this has not been an active project during these 5 years. The contracting officer was telling me that that's not going to be the case in the next 5 years, that they're going to go for this and they're going to obligate a lot more of the funding. But they did have problems during the past 5 years. So as you can see, only 30%, and we are in the 5th year. They are way behind using the funds on this one. If you look at, excuse me, 1 minute. Okay, if you look at, I've put some charts showing each of the 3 incumbents, how they have worked, and you can see, and I'll show you the other 2, but all of them during 2019 have dropped. It seems that the government has provided less task orders and less funds and less projects. So you can see that even Booz Allen, which has the highest share, has had a drop in 2019. If you go to CSSI, again here you see a drop. And then again, when you go to Serco, there's a drop too. So this couldn't be just the incumbents themselves not performing well or anything like that. It seems that the government itself is not using the funds properly, especially in 2019. Okay, let's move on and go into the proposal structure. There are 7 factors, as they call them, factors A through G, that make up the proposal structure, cover letter. Then factor A, technical capability. Factor B, past performance. Factor C, software development plan. Factor D, small business participation. Factor E, cost price proposal. Factor F is a sample task, technical approach and staffing, and factor G is the sample task, cost price. And I'm going to explain how you're supposed to provide these. And of course, there are the usual administrative documents like SF 1449 and the other documents that you usually provide. Now, before we going on into the actual proposal details or the evaluation criteria, let's look at the evaluation process or the phasing that they have said. As you remember, I said that this is going to have 2 contracts, a MAC and a SAC. So the way they're going to decide on it is that in phase 1, they're going to look at factors A through E, which is technical, past performance, the SDP, the software development plan, small business participation, and cost price. From these 5 factors, they're going to decide the awardees for the MAC. So in phase 1, the awardees for the MAC will be decided. Then from those awardees, they're going to look at factor F and G of only the awardees, not the rest of the companies. And then from one of those, evaluate them and then award it to one of the MAC awardees, award the SAC contract. So that's how they're going to look at it. First, find out who is going to win on the MAC, establish the awardee pool, and from that awardee pool, they're going to look at the factors F and G in their proposal, and then decide on one single company that is going to win that SAC contract. So that's the phasing process that they're going to go through. Okay, so now let's go into more details about these factors. Factor 1 or factor A is the technical capability, and we'll see that this is the most important factor in the entire proposal. So it's really important that you focus on this in terms of your energy and resources. You're supposed to provide at least one and no more than 5 projects showing your experience in different fields, and I'll get into what scope they're looking for. There's an attachment 1A, which is the references, 1-pager or perhaps 2-pager, and then 1B are the forms that you have to fill out for each project, and you multiply the attachment 1B for each project. You have to fill it out separately. Now, each project must have the following characteristics. As far as recency is concerned, it's supposed to be within the last 3 years from the date of the RFP issuance. Obviously, the RFP has not been issued yet, so we can't say exactly what, but 3 years from that backwards. Relevant, of course, means that the contract, or if it can be a task order too under a multiple award or a single award IDIQ BPA. So the contract or the task order must be similar to the requirements of this RFP. Also, the cumulative invoiced value of that contract or task order or whatever must be over $40 million. Now, that does not mean that your share must be 40 million, the entire team. So you and all the subcontractors, so that project must be over $40 million. Now, we'll see that you can use subcontractors for this, and you can bring in projects from subcontractors. But if the project coming from the subcontractor, you need to bring in projects that are at least 40 million as far as the team, your team is concerned. So your subcontractor cannot bring in a project that they did only $10 million in it, and the project was $50 million, but the rest of the $40 million was done by some other company. That's not acceptable. At least $40 million must be from the team. That means either 1, 2, how many subs and the primes, but it has to be 40 million. Now, at least one contract must come from the prime, and each of the significant subcontractors, meaning those that are going to perform more than 20% of the contract, they must also provide one project. And then there is a requirement that at least one of the contracts, the prime's invoiced share must be over 20 million. So the prime by itself must have invoiced over $20 million during the execution of the project. Now, this execution could have been 10 years, 2 years, whatever. That's fine. Of course, there's that recency issue, meaning that the project must have been, for example, finished within the last 3 years, but it could have been a 10-year project going on. So the overall invoiced share of the prime must be at least one of the contracts, $20 million. Okay, now in terms of the scope of what it covers, each project, it's supposed to cover ATC, METOC, and Aviation C5 SIR, Electronic Systems Engineering Design. The same thing, but instead of engineering design, it's supposed to cover technical support. And then the third is configuration management and system maintenance support and similar work. So the projects that you provide must cover all these three. And the more detailed, the better. So in selecting those maximum 5, you need to make sure that they do cover these areas or similar to these areas. There's a reference information sheet, summary data, attachment 1A. That has no page limit. You just put in the references. But the reference information sheet, contract specific data 1B, that's a form that you have to fill out for each project separately. So for each project, you fill out one of these attachments, 1B, but the overall page count for all of them must be 20. So on the average, if you have 5 projects, on the average, you have 4 pages per contract, although they have not limited anything. So you might have a project with 6 pages, another with 2 pages, but the overall should not be over 20 pages. Okay, let's go to factor B, past performance. In past performance, you're supposed to provide the past performance for projects in factor A. So you can't provide past performance for other projects. Whatever you provided in factor A, those 5 projects maximum, here you provide the past performance. Now it can be either a CPAR, or if it doesn't exist, you don't have a CPAR, it must you must fill out a PPQ, past performance questionnaire. I mean, your client must fill it up and then send it directly to the government once it's filled up. And do remember that you must provide the CPAR or PPQ for both prime and significant subcontractors. Factor C is software development plan. This factor has 3 sub-factors: the software development plan, SDP, the rationale for the SDP, and the model-based maturity assessment. The SDP must have been an SDP you have prepared before for a similar software development effort, providing software updates to an application of similar scope or complexity. So that's the SDP that you need to provide. The SDP must have been developed and finalized within the last 3 years. So that's another limitation. So you have to make sure that the SDP that you provide is not older than 3 years. Now the rationale, the second sub-factor, must be less than 2 pages. So 2 page, the SDP itself doesn't have a page limit, but the rationale cannot be longer than 2 pages. And in it, you're supposed to explain how you selected the processes that you use, and also whether explain why you think the approach was proper, the approach that you use in the SDP. The model-based maturity assessment, which is the sub-factor 3, is also limited to 2 pages. Here you're supposed to show the alignment of the SDP rationale with the CMMI Dev level 3. So in 2 pages, you're supposed to prove that alignment. Okay, and factor D is small business participation. Obviously, since this is a large, this is a full and open bid, there is a goal for small businesses, and the goal is 15% minimum. So you must show that you can actually reach that. There's an attachment 3, small business participation, that you have to fill out and show that you have at least 15% participation of small businesses. It can't be more than 5 pages in that. If you're a large business and not a small business, you must also provide a small business subcontracting plan. But that subcontracting plan doesn't go here under factor D. It goes under other proposal requirements, which is a separate section. But don't forget to actually include that, the small business subcontracting plan. And then finally, for phase 1, factor E, cost price proposal. You must provide a narrative, cost price proposal narrative, which must be less than 15 pages. And for the subs, 5 pages. You also must provide supporting documentation for data other than certified cost or pricing data. You must provide proposed fixed fee rate, including application base, as required by Section B. Pricing model, you have to provide that for primes and all subcontractors, so that pricing model must be provided. Professional employee compensation plan for the prime only, that's supposed to be provided, and also position description and labor mapping of all the people that you're going to use. So this is going to be the cost price proposal. Now, there are 2 other factors, F and G. If you remember, I said that A to E, factors A to E were for the MAC, but if you want to be selected for the SAC, for the single award, you must also provide in your proposal factors F and G. Factor F, technical approach, it has 2 sub-factors. Subfactor 1 is the technical approach, and subfactor 2 is the staffing plan. And there's a maximum 20-page limit for the technical approach. I've listed some of the material that you need to take care of. For example, you should include a WBS, work breakdown structure of at least third level of detail, must address each subtask, must provide completion dates for at least 3 major milestones: the delivery of the TTRS, the transportable transmitters receiver shelter, to the airfield, the advanced planning team when they're going to be on site, and when you're going to finish the restoration of the airfield's ATC transmitter capability. So these 3 dates are very important for them. You need to remember to include them. For the subfactor 2, F2, staffing plan, you need to provide proposed labor categories and labor hours for each WBS subtask. So that detail. Rationale for the proposed staffing for each WBS subtask. A labor to WBS cross-reference matrix, that's attachment 12, you have to include that. And then you need to describe your strategy towards surge situation, mitigation of staffing shortfalls, and all that stuff that is usual in a staffing plan. So that's neat to go in there. Factor G is the sample task cost price. It's based on the sample task PWS, which is attachment 5. It's a cost plus fixed fee system. You need to use the same format that is used in attachment 4A prime pricing model. There's a tab there called sample task. You need to use that. And you must provide detailed breakdown of proposed labor categories, hours, or unburdened labor hours, or burdened rates, and all of that, equipment, material, all the costs. Now, you just have to make sure that the labor rates and all the burdened and unburdened fixed fees, whatever you use, must correspond to the same numbers that you used under phase 1 factor E, which was price. So you can't change the pricing there. Also, the labor categories and hours that you're going to use must correspond to what you've mentioned in your staffing plan for factor F. So make sure that that is in place. Now, let's look at the evaluation criteria. We did go through it, but how are they weighing against each other? First of all, as you remember, there were 5 factors under phase 1, factor A to G. A to E. Now, 5 of them. Factor 1 or factor A is the technical capability, and that is, as you can see, I've written, it's significantly more important than factor E, which is price. And it is evaluated on an adjectival basis. In other words, they're going to rate you. Now, factors B, C, and D, past performance, software development plan, and small business participation, are just acceptable and unacceptable. So you're not going to be rated on them as far as comparison to other companies and things like that. So you either pass or you fail. It's either acceptable or unacceptable. So at the end, what's left out is assuming that you have acceptable past performance, acceptable software development plan, and an acceptable small business participation. Essentially, it's only factor A, which is technical, and factor E, which is price. And then they're saying that A is significantly more important than price. So technical is significantly more important than price. So essentially, factor A is the king here in this proposal. You really need to focus on that. You just have to pass on the other factors, and your price must be competitive, of course. But the most important and essential factor is that factor A, technical capability. In other words, getting those 5 contracts in place, 5 previously performed contracts either by you or your subs. Now, if you remember, I said that if once they select the awardees for the max, then from amongst those only, they're going to see which one will get the SAC award, the single award contract. And there, they're going to look at factor F again, technical, and factor G, price, for the sample tasks. And of course, the technical is significantly more important than price. And that way, they're going to select the company based on their technical proposal under factor F. If it's major, if it's stronger than the others, then price plays a less important factor. Price only plays a important factor if, technically speaking, two companies are very close to each other. This is the same for phase 1 under the MAC and for phase 2 under the SAC. So essentially, you really need to work on your technical proposal. So I've put a slide on partnering because it's really important, both for large businesses and, of course, for small businesses who want to have a piece of the pie. It is important because you can fill in gaps specifically for the factor A, technical, and factor D, small business participation. And we are helping both sides. If you're a small business and we would like to sub, just let us know and we'll introduce you to potential primes. And if you're a prime looking for a sub, we will let us know again. We will introduce you to possible partners after vetting them. So let us know what you need, what is the gap that you're looking for to fill, and we'll try to find subs for you. So that with that, let's come to the win strategy. That it's a very generalized win strategy that we've put. Factor A, as we discussed, is king, technical. The others are less important. Factors B, C, and D are just pass, not pass, or fail. And price is significantly less important than factor A, so than technical. Create a gap analysis of your projects, the 5 projects that you should provide, assuming those factors like the 3 years, recency, the fact that it needs to be relevant, the fact that it needs to have $40 million invoiced, the total for the team, the fact that you need at least one $20 million invoiced by you. So all these factors, and create a gap analysis of the projects you have, and then decide on your partnering strategy based on that gap analysis. I do want to emphasize that do not wait for the RFP to be released. You have a lot of work to do. Finding those subs, of course, is one. We suggest working on the proposal itself up to a pseudo red, and then wait for the full RFP and then refine. You should not wait until the last minute to start on the proposal. The page count is low on some of them, 20 pages. But that means that you need to be very concise and to the point. You also need to sharpen your pencil on the pricing and work on the price model and narratives. Even though it's significantly less important than technical, but it's still a factor, assuming that you might face a situation that, technically speaking, there are not major advantages that you might have compared to your competitors. So price will play a major role at that time. And of course, get outside help. If you don't have a good proposal team, use a outside proposal shop. But nonetheless, even if you do have a very good team, we do suggest that your proposal be reviewed by an independent body outside your team, which is the usual norm for doing major jobs, so that you make sure that there are multiple sets of eyes looking at that. And this is where our services come in case you want to use ours. We provide full proposal development. That means partnering arrangements, the proposal development itself. We also do capture management, like holding black hat exercises, competitive intelligence, and all sorts of information that we can use to make sure that we can increase your winning chance. For those companies that do need reviewing and auditing, we do have that system as well. So we can do a review of your pink, red, or gold versions. And finally, one of the services we have is staff augmentation. Sometimes companies are just short of one or two people, from proposal managers and writers and team members all the way to it costs me. And this one does have the need to provide cost narratives and price modeling and all that. So we can provide that. Or you might need a capture manager or a facilitator for a black hat to hold the black hat yourself, and you just need a facilitator for it. And we can provide all of that. So staff augmentation is also a service that we provide. The slides, you can download this slide on the right-hand side, as Steve mentioned. It does have our VP of Business Development. You can contact him, Marone, if you have any questions as far as if you need an offer or need help on that side. Or if you have any technical questions, contact me, please. I've put my email and phone number there, so you can contact me. Okay, so with that, we can come to the Q&A session and go from there. Steve,
Well,
please.
thank you, Eb. Yeah, I hope you don't have the echo that we had before. But interesting that we talk about teaming, because I've got two different questions. One is looking for partnering with a sub, and the other one is looking for partnering with the prime. So we will get back to you separately on those questions. I hope that's okay.
Okay, I do actually. I received emails with questions, so let me go through those. One of them, one email says, "Do you know when they are actually going to provide the final RFP?" I talked to the contracting officer, and they weren't sure exactly when, but they promised that it's going to be Q1 of 2020, fiscal 2020. So that's one of the things they've mentioned. One other question I have received is this: can we use subcontract projects? From what the RFP has mentioned, there is no restriction on that. In other words, if you did, for example, a subcontract for a large company and the amount was with the team that you did it, perhaps you're using the same team, it's over $40 million, or your own share was over $40 million, that's acceptable. So even subcontracts are allowed. So because at least they have not said no. Now this might change during the Q&As as they go on, and the final RFP as it comes out, but that's the situation now. And as far as partnering with the prime is concerned, just let us know that you are interested. Send Marone, Freedy, or myself. Our emails are on the slide deck. An email, let us know that you're interested, and if possible, please send us some information about your projects. Do remember that to be able to be part of the team, you need to have at least one large project so that primes can actually use that. Of course, some primes might just use you as a subcontractor without using your projects to get to that 15% subcontracting, small business subcontracting limit. But again, please provide us information about that, and we can see if we can connect you to any primes. And if you're a prime, let us know if you're looking for any subs, so we know that we should approach you.
Okay, got a couple more questions in the same vein. One is just a statement. We're a small MBE firm in Maryland, so we will be aware of that. How can I get a partner with the Prime? Or how can I partner with the Prime? And one says we were a bit late and missed the 16th webinar. Is there a document detailing the requirements of this RFP, the technical aspects? Well,
yeah, I think if they use the slide presentation, and as Steve said, within 24 hours the recording of the webinar will be sent to you. So you can use both the slide presentation as well as the recording, and that way you can catch up.
Well, certainly wish you luck on your endeavors. Be sure to give us a call if there's anything that we can help with. And we wish you the best.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.